last year, I refinished the outside of the hull with some help of some friends there. And it's past time to pay some attention to the interior. It's been 7 years since launch. Need to refresh the urethane and also address a couple of issues I wish I'd done differently. So we got some wear showing here, some road rash. It's definitely got some dock rash here and there on the rails. When I'm hiking, I tend to put a shoe up against here. It's not wearing through yet, but it's starting to. But the more serious concern is down along the keelson. And when I glassed the inside of this, I stopped short of the keelson. I had left this corner sharp and just realized there's no way I'm going to get the glass to follow that. Now, in theory, the sheets had one coat of epoxy before they went on. Then they had another coat of epoxy with the glass going on with it, and then urethane. But I just am starting to really be concerned about down here in sort of the bilge where you're sailing and water's coming aboard. It's going to sit down along here. What I want to do is, at least for the lower part, maybe from that rib on up to the mast step, angle this and then come back with glass and cover this seam completely. Here's an example where I get a little overly optimistic. This is starting to discolor, and my mistake is thinking, well, I got a good coat of epoxy on there, not glass, just epoxy, and then urethane, it should be good to go. But this end grain is vulnerable, and the lesson is you get a little tiny entrance over time. Maybe someone's stepping on there, opens up a little air pinhole, water gets in, expands it, it's a bigger pinhole. So the glass epoxy is really the only way to be sure. So I have to do some rehabilitation on that. Already did a similar operation on that. I'd like to make those limber holes bigger and make sure they are correctly sealed inside. The limber holes here are too small and they're easily clogged. That's not the worst of it. I can't really tell if it's healthy or not. They're just too small to maintain. So that's one objective. I'll be able to get some glass around the opening, maybe round it over a bit so I can see it, see the state of this wood. Other than that, it's kind of like just get a decent sand and a couple of nice urethane coats. Got a braced on there so I can climb around inside. Hit it with 400 on the orbital. We'll have to do a lot of hand sanding into the nooks and crannies, but it's a pretty good start. I got a little bit of unseasonably warm weather, which is going to end soon. So I can do some epoxy. I can do step one on trying to rescue this guy. Just get some epoxy into those laminates, clamp that up. I identified some of the dock rash bits, marked them, scuffed them just a bit. And so we can hit those and little wear and tear spots around the halyards. And where I overamped the thickness of the dagger board tip and had to remove some material. It's a challenge building these plywood boats where I knew I wanted the wood grain to show through. Hide as much as you can of the plywood end grain. All right, temps were not ideal for epoxy overnight, but it has gone off well enough. I suppose something like that. Well, those were the easy ones. And what to do about this? Big old no-go zone all through there, but you can't make a big dam too. That's been the dilemma. We recontoured the leading edge corner of the mast step behind there. So there's a fairly continuous surface that I think I could wrap glass up and around. All 3 sets of limber holes. I think I'll leave this alone. That's kind of the idea. Just sand this edge off. Happy New Year, 2025 is here, and with it return to near freezing temps. I can do the next phase on this. What I did on the other one, forward of R1, was to round over this surface to get the glass to follow. It's not going to be as pretty as it was new. It's because I made a mistake and didn't glass that end grain. Wear and tear resistance, I guess. One more coat will bury the weave. As usual, lumpy, but we'll sand that off. Winter's definitely here. The epoxy's gone off nicely. Rabbit's checking things out. All right, pretty close. A bit of warm weather, like one little 24-hour blip before going on with the full glass and epoxy layer. I'd like to wash this all down, and I don't want the water scrubbing to soak into this end grain that I've now exposed. So we'll just selectively cover that in thin set epoxy, equal parts A and B. That is set up. Temps are coming up again. I think enough that I can go ahead and get this epoxy glass layer. 2 pieces coming out here. Stop it at the mast step, and then run 2 more that take a floor all the way through that limber hole. You start with that piece, then these pieces, and then lay the smaller bits. I was definitely pushing the lower limits of temp through this phase, but I was just impatient and wanted to get it moved forward. The epoxy was super viscous. I could have kept the hardener and resin inside and then brought it out. That would have helped. But in the end, getting glass inside the limber holes, underneath the floors of the limber holes, all those little details worked out pretty well. Now keep it up on the contact on the above edge of the bottom of the mast step and around that corner and a floor and up around the edge of the limber hole. I think that's good. Enlarged limber hole in the forward corner of the mast step that was bare wood. So I think I've got glass and epoxy over that. Okay, been about 5 hours. And still leaving a little bit of a fingerprint in there, but I think it'll be close enough. Go ahead and get another coat on this. And the temps dropped back down overnight. I hate leaving space heaters running out here. Not 1, not 2, but 3 heaters going. Keeping them just far enough away from the boat and from the tarp. It'll keep the cure going. Back from the Florida trip. Spring is here, at least for this week. Beautiful. And I did ground a little bit on Nomad's, especially daggerboard, in preparation for a bunch of urethane. Did it set up well enough? Will it sand? I'm not particularly worried about structural integrity. I think that's just waterproofing and peace of mind in the bilge. And if it rubberizes and won't sand cleanly, I'm in trouble. Well, I am tentatively pleased. Went over it with this 400, and now we're going to do the water Scotch Brite to try to get the amine blush off. Finally ready to get urethane in here, and much needed urethane on the uppers as well as this second deck. We'll break there because I've got these flotation straps taped up out of the way, and then we'll get a coat on the top sides. Love the grain. So we are going to do the top sides of the thwarts, benches, and just the center sections. Second coat.